Shalom, Yashrala. This your brother Dawada, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shah, Bahashim, Rakak Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of great millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation, much love for you, I can push this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to jump to this here article real quick, which says, why are people afraid of 15-minute cities? Now, this has been more and more a talked about topic, as it pertains to the bigger agenda, the bigger plan. When you get into how do I want to put it, the factory reset button. We have to kind of word it that way, because if you say when they go to the WEF and they speak about that and they use this other term, sometimes they'll put your stuff in brackets and shadow ban it. But nevertheless, we all know what that's all about. And then going on with that, with the the push of the CBDCs, all right, and then all this here tracking and tracing and everything else like that. We see that this is a bigger, how do I say, one all-encompassing system that's coming into play. All right, what you would know of as what the New World Order. This is what Esau's plan is to do, man. All right, ultimately give you that MOTB. All right, because that's the one thing that all this is pretty much predicated on, man. It's like the backbone of all this. When we talk about these 15-minute cities, how can they enforce these things, man? All right, I'm only going to read a little bit of this here article real quick, but then we're going to get into some scriptures. But it says, why are people afraid of 15-minute cities? All right, and there's another article about how this is, nothing new, and they had this in basically the USSR. It says a newly popular concept of having all you need within easy reach is seen by some as a step towards total control. And that's exactly what it is, man. And you can think about it like, how it is here in Babylon the Great. All right, and a lot of Jakes, I found this out, just in regular life, a while back, living like where I live and going to school where I go to school at, there's like, I live, 2 or 3 cities away from where I went to school at. But granted, it's not that far away from one another. For me to get to, let's say for me to get to the school I went to, is only a 20-minute drive or something like that. It's not far at all. The cities are very small, well, they're not necessarily small, but, how do I put it? Where I live in my city is kind of very close to the border to the very next city. The very next city is very small, to get to the third city, right? So it's not that far at all. But however, I realized, as I was graduating high school and everything else like that, and had some friends over, at that point in time, they had never been on that side of town. And these people are from this here place in particular, and I happened to move here some years back. All right, I'm not originally from out here. So, it was strange to me. I was like, wait a minute, y'all ain't never been out here. This is a 15, 20-minute drive away from where you went. You know what I'm saying? From where you live, just down here. You never passed this red light. You know what I'm saying? 3 minutes past this red light is where I live. Y'all never been over here before? And, predominantly, a lot of, you got Jakes that live out here, but, predominantly Jake live on the other side of town, predominantly like that, man. All right. So I just realized, like, dang, when Jake don't go into and you can find this in all types of cities, man. All right, you have an Edomite side of town and a Jake side of town, man. There's a lot of things around Jake that they don't even know about. And it's like, 15 minutes out that way or this way, you can find all kind of things, man. Even hell, like where I work at nowadays, or where I have to drive through to get to work. You drive through a lot of farmland and a whole bunch of just fields and cow pastures and things like that. Some people, they don't even see these things, man. All right, so, putting it in that perspective, these people can be limited to not knowing that these things are around. All right. And then also when it comes to certain jobs, man, Jake, a lot of the times are, how do I put it? Or I'll give you a different example when it comes to jobs. You'll have, like, let's say some female Jakes, right? They'll be working in a little area where they get, they may pick up a job at the McDonald's or the local restaurant that's around them. Not really making that much more money, not making that much money, right? At the little local restaurant, they ain't really getting that much revenue or anything. Let's say they work at the Applebee's in they hood or whatever, right? They ain't making that much money, right? But then if they was to drive 15, 20 minutes to the Edomite side of town, they can go to some fine dining restaurant, do the exact same job and make 3 or 4 times as much as that. But they don't know about that because of that's on a different side of town. I see this all the time where it's like, damn, if Jake only knew, come over to these Edomite neighborhoods and go get some damn jobs, they're going to be paying a lot more because they looking to so-called employee Edomites. You may have to drive a little bit, but you're going to be making that much more money, man. All right. You have different services and things that's provided on other sides of towns that's not provided on your side of town. So, I'll put it to you that way, even if you can, kind of understand, like, something you can visualize. A lot of time in Jake neighborhoods, they don't have like lawn services and shit like that. Go to the Edomite neighborhoods, they got a lot of lawn services. So if you want a job in that, that's where you're gonna have to go. Saying all that to say this: when you are limited to a small little neighborhood and seeing small little things, or even grocery stores, man, Jake is confined to eating poorly crafted choices from grocery stores at your local Food Lions and Aldi's and shit like that. May never have seen a Whole Food a day in their damn life, but if they were to just drive on the other side of town, they got way better choices. So putting that in perspective with these 15-minute cities, right? You're gonna be limited to whatever you have in that little area, right? And if you leave out of that area, there's a fine for it. Let's run through this here article a little bit. It says, in an effort to make towns more user and eco-friendly, urban planners have unveiled the 15-minute city, which hopes to keep its residents close to home to battle climate change. All right. So, but this will be planned. But this will plan open the. But this plan will open doors to greater restrictions. So, but also think about this. You have a lot of Jakes, right, that live in areas where they live and they're already confined to things like that, whether they, ride city transportation like the city bus, all right, or they ride a bike, or they got a bummer ride from somebody here and there. So they're not really going too far. They're like, I ain't going over that way because, I can't get a ride all the way over there. It's going to cost me too much money to get all the way over there versus somebody who have a car. They're like, yo, I'm going to just go ahead and make this trip because I can make this trip back and forth, $20, giving somebody $20 for a ride, let's say $20 for Uber, $20 for a bus ride, $20. You're not going to go as far as if you was to put $20 in your own car and try to drive out that way. You know what I'm saying? So, this is one of the things, again, that keep Jake into these different areas in these neighborhoods, man. You can go to a lot of Jake neighborhoods and see those Jakes that don't have real transportation and they just limited to walking, riding bikes or anything else like that. Hey, man, the radius of their travel is not that very far. So the things that they're limited to is not that much, right? It says more than 2,000 protesters went into the streets of Oxford, England, earlier this month to express their hostilities to the controversial concept of a 15-minute city, which have already been quietly unveiled in a number of major cities, including Barcelona, Melbourne, Paris, and Milan. Now, what they're not telling you about these 15-minute cities, they didn't rebranded these things from being what called smart cities, all right, or sustainable, what was it called? Sustainable city. Well, first it was called a smart city, then a sustainable city. Then once all these things kept getting exposed of what they really were, now they call 15-minute cities, right? And, to some people, they're going to say, oh, that sounds great. That sounds great. That sounds great. Hey, man, go up to New York and you see how you live up there. All right. You go to New York and some of them, a lot of them places up there, like Brooklyn and stuff like that, man. If you don't know what like a bodega is, I remember talking to somebody down here and they was talking about what the hell is a bodega. Like, hey, you go to 7-Eleven, right? That's a bodega. But just imagine you going downstairs from your apartment and that shit is at the bottom floor, or on one of the floors in between your apartment, man. You don't never really have to leave your apartment building for some things. I know that I remember I got some cousins that live up there. But in some of them damn high-rise buildings, you got the school that's in the building. You got, because I remember my cousins, they was like, their mom worked in the building. They lived in the building and the kids went to school in the building. And then you had the grocery store at the bottom of the building. So theoretically, they ain't really ever had to leave the damn building that they lived in. All right. They had to go to different parts of the building, on different floors and different wings of the building. They didn't really have to ever leave the building, man. So if it was pouring down rain outside, they literally technically didn't have to leave the building at all. Now, granted, if you wanted to go to like the little bodega and stuff, you would have to go all the way down to the bottom floor, go outside and come back in the front. You could go through the back door, but the front entrance was a lot better. But nevertheless, I looked at that like, oh shit, y'all don't ever have to leave y'all building for anything, man. But look at the living, the attitudes of the people that live up there, man. They all congested. And I always say, hey, look at how when people live in cities, their attitudes. You take people from New York and stuff like that, that's living stacked on top of each other in the concrete jungle. Take those people and look at their attitudes versus people that live out in the middle of nowhere on a lot of land and everything else. They're more laid back. They ain't got shit to do. They just like, hey, it's just us out here. They're more in tune to nature, man. But people that's stacked on top of each other, man, it's not good, man. Causes more. You think about it, man. Go to some of these old backwood towns where there ain't really nothing out there. You don't have traffic jams like that, man. Go up to places like New York, man, and people just stacked on top of each other. Everything in like Brooklyn and everything is 50. You ain't got to go 5 minutes away to go get all the shit that you need, man. But guess what? You can't find parking out there, man. It take you 2 hours to go around 2 city blocks out there, man. All right. But nevertheless, this is something, like I said, that's being pushed out and projected as far as this here, New World Order system. All right. Let me just read a little bit more of this. This is centered on the work from the French Colombian urbanist Carlos Moreno. 15-minute cities are designed so that human necessities and services like shopping, work, education, and healthcare are accessible within a short bike ride or a walk from one's front door. And they've been preparing you people for these things the whole time with, getting people used to Ubers and things like that. This new generation is like Uber is some godsend. I'm like, yo, back in the days we had what they called a yellow cab and shit like that. You just call a taxi. The taxi come pick you up. It's the same shit. But nowadays people think about that, but it's like, yo, well, I don't need a car no more. I can just Uber. This new young generation, that's how they think. They was like, why would I need a driver's license? I can just call it Uber. Why would I need to go and cook and go out to the grocery store when I could just Uber Eats and get some DoorDash delivered to me? Why would I need any of these things when I could just have everything I need brought to Amazon packages, brought to me, everything brought to me? I don't need to go anywhere. This is the mindset of these people. I work from home anyway, man. So a lot of these people are already, and you don't even realize all these things is going on around you is conditioning you for these things, man. It's pretty much like you being in the think about prisoners, man. They don't ever have to leave the prison for anything that they need. And just like, their food come to them, hygiene come to them, they go to the commissary, everything is right there inside that prison system for them, man. All right. And they have you about to be in a big open air prison. All right. You could think of it like the Hunger Games. All right. It says, where are we at? It says such cities are divided into neighborhoods or zones in the just like what they called them I forgot what they called them in the Hunger Games, but nevertheless, if you remember, put it in the comments. Precincts or something like that. Called something. But anyway, it says prefixes, I believe it was called. It says such cities are divided into neighborhoods or zones, and local residents have little or no need to ever travel outside their immediate surroundings. When necessary, such trips can be taken via public transport or ring roads, keeping private cars' harmful emissions into the city air at minimum. All right, and as we see them with these different train derailments and all this other chemicals and stuff like that, it's like, yo, that really the government and those big corporations is polluting the planet way more than all us residential or civilian people, man. That ain't really the problem. But it says, at first glance, it seems hard to argue with the proposal. After all, most people at one time or another have found themselves cursing at automobiles, maybe even chasing after them with a clenched fist, as an Australian friend of mine was prone to do when the cars didn't stop for him into crosswalks, wishing that contraptions would just disappear. The contraptions would disappear. In fact, something like that happened recently in central Moscow when the local government converted several empty streets around a red square to pedestrian cities. Now, nevertheless, let me just jump down to the same. Well, let me just keep reading. It says, the results have been spectacular. Along spacious roads once reserved for the fire-breathing machines, young people ride electric scooters. Kids run without fear of becoming roadkill, and diners enjoy casual meals on patios minus vehicular noise and pollution. Actually, that wasn't the paragraph. But anyway, there's a paragraph that tells you how they used to do this inside of Russia, basically the USSR and everything else like that, man. All right, there was another paragraph I wanted to get. I think it was right here. No. There was another paragraph I wanted to read in here. But anyway, point is, we can grab some scriptures here. I wasn't it, but I'll read that paragraph as well too. But let me just read this and we'll grab some scriptures. It says, the self-contained neighborhood is ultimately able to maintain stable access to all the wants and needs of its residents. Opponents of the idea have gone as far as comparing it to a gulag, just said that, open air prison. They feel the 15-minute city would deprive them of the freedom of choice to leave their neighborhoods and venture into other businesses, schools, healthcare services without having to fork over money, time, and nerves for the privileges. Like I said, you can see how that plays out if you really understand about like certain jobs and stuff. And that was one thing that I learned early on. You can work in the same business, but just work on a different side of town. Sometimes you make more money, get better perks and everything else like that, man. All right. And I also learned that because, again, like I said, the city that I live in, it's not, now they're starting to build up a lot of things. But as I was growing up, I always had to drive to a different city to go find work because there wasn't really no work in the city that I lived in because it was like it used to be an old farm town, you know what I'm saying, where you just be a lot of like farming stuff going on around and everything else like that. So it wasn't really that much infrastructure. So I always had to go, and like I said, when I go to the next city to go to work, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'll drive 10 minutes to get to my job. It's not that far, you know what I'm saying? But Nevertheless, the actual address in the city where I live at, they didn't have too much things there. So, hey, I know I'm always have to go to another city for work. And I noticed that the further out that I drove, the more these places was paying. All right. You get way better jobs, factories and things like that. So, you can, again, think about living in a major downtown area and things like that. Like, yo, you want that factory job, you're going to have to drive a little bit because they're not going to have a factory in a downtown area where you work at. All right. Or hell, the airport. Airport's going to pay you a lot more money. The prime example right there. You can go to the airport and work for Chick-fil-A. I'm not 100% sure, but the airport Chick-fil-A probably going to pay you a hell of a lot more money than the damn Chick-fil-A, or let's just say McDonald's. Ain't no Chick-fil-A's in the hood, but you know what I'm saying? Then the McDonald's in the hood, man. All right. But these are the things that, these are just small things, you know what I'm saying? That, like I said, that you can look at nowadays and see how things kind of compare to how when they have this in, in full swing. All right. So let's jump into some scriptures real quick, because ultimately, like I said, this is all predicated around what? Implementing of the MOTB. And as you're seeing, all this is being put into place and coming into fruition as we speak. All right. So going into Habakkuk 2 and 3, the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. And I know that there's a lot of controversy about what the MOTB is, right? And so on and so forth. But what do you see in being implemented right about now, man? All right, people talking about some, it's sin. All right, it's Christianity, sleeping with the so-called white woman, all kind of things like that. But what kind of infrastructure do you see they building for all the, for the how do I say, to prove any of these points? All right, none of these things are being built up to prove that their point. But what infrastructure do we see? Let's go ahead and grab that in Revelation real quick, right? Revelation 13 and 16 says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads. All right. And that so let's just think about that for a second, right? Now, you living in these 15-minute cities, there was a different article about that where they said that they use like, not to say different, where they got like different cameras and things like that, like how they have the traffic cams and everything else like that. And to be able to report on you, right? And it was saying like in one article about like the tag of your car. If your car's in a different area to where it should be at and everything else like that, they can introduce an additional fine on you. All right. And if you're in a different zone and where you should be at and you didn't get permission, there could be an additional fine on you, man. So there you go with the limiting of the travel. But how can they track all those things, man, unless they have some type of tracking device on you? All right. They talk about these different emissions. All right. You consuming certain things and everything else like that. Now, again, we can look at the Chinese credit social or what is it called? A Chinese social credit system or something like that. All right. I might have the words misarranged, but the social or Chinese social credit system or something like that. But nevertheless, they have the same thing going on over there, man. All right. You consume too much junk food. You consume too much of this, too much of that. You do too much driving. All right. They can penalize you, man. Stop you from doing certain things, man. So hey, if it's going to, like, the scripture here says they're going to cause all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond. All right, to participate in this here situation. Why do you think that they're trying to build these so-called smart cities, sustainable cities, or these new 15-minute cities, man? All right, to keep everybody in this here area, man. And then you're going to have to, look, man, you don't have access to this building because you're not from this zone. You're not from this here area. All right, and how would they be able to know that unless they have everybody pretty much tracked and traced? All right, it says, in that no man might be able to buy or sell save he that have the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Again, going into what? You're not, this ain't your local grocery store for you to go into, man. And this is another little hack, man. I know that, like from where I live at, how they have Walmarts damn near everywhere, back to back to back to back. I got a Walmart the same mileage distance in one direction than in the other direction. Now, the one in one direction is the Walmart in the hood. The other one is in the upscale white people neighborhood, man. All right. So, you go to the other Walmart, you get a better choice of selection of things, the fruits, the produce and stuff like that. If that's where you go to get your stuff at. All right. You just have a better choice of things. And it's just way better up in there, man. You don't have half the damn shit jumping off with Jake going on in the hood over there, man. All right. So, you can see how, some people do these things. And I also see like I be seeing people on a whole different side of town where they live like, bro, don't you got the same grocery store on your side of town? Yeah, but I'd rather come to the Publix, which is a grocery store out here where we at. I'd rather go to the Publix on this side of town because they fruits and produce is way better. And that's another hack. You go to your same little grocery store. Let's just say it's the same name brand grocery store. You go to Publix in your little neighborhood and everything else like that. Hey, go to that same grocery store on the Edomite side of town and see what the selection look like up in there, man. You'd be surprised. You think it's the same store with the same products. Oh, hell no, it's a completely different product. So some jakes actually be having those hacks that know about stuff like that, and they go to these other stores and the same stores on the other side of town and get a better buy, a better selection or choice of things. But think about this in this here system. It says that no man might buy or sell save he that have the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Now, going into this here system that they're talking about, hey, you're not supposed to be on this side of town, or this is outside of your zone, and you had to travel all the way over here, increasing emissions. How would they be able to know about if you was going all the way over there? How would they be able to stop or restrict you from buying? Hey, like you got to go in, you got to check your ID. Hey, you're not from over here. You can't come into this here door or anything else like that, man. All right. And they're going to give you this here charagma for this here purpose, man. All right. So as we can see, the vision ship for an appointed time, we see this system being put into place. We see that this thing is coming up to life and jumping off the page as we speak. Sin and Christianity and all that other stuff is not they're not building. For one, here in Babylon the Great, they're not pushing for you to be a how you would say, we're going to use the term, a biblical Christian. All right, not pushing the Mo community agenda on everybody out here, man. All right, that's contradiction to one another, man. If anything, they're trying to get rid of the scriptures. They're trying to get rid of the thought and idea of God and how they say traditionalism and everything. They're trying to get rid of all those things, man. So and they're pushing modernism. So hey, it's not no Christianity. All right, sleeping with the so-called white woman. Hell, if you think about it this way, they trying to stop men from sleeping with women and women from sleeping with men. You got this independent women thing going on. They don't need no man, feminism and MGTOW, men going their own way. So they're not pushing for any of these things. But what they are pushing for is, what they call Neuralink. All right, the RFID chips being put inside of people, man. Retina scans. Look at your phones and the technology you have on there. Fingerprint scanners, retina scans, face scans. All right, all these different things, tap to pay and everything else like that. When they implement that all into one device, all right, we see this. This is where this is all going to, man. All right, and going to stick it in the Revelation. All right, Revelation 3:10. It says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. All right, and so, hey, think about these cities that they're creating, man. All right, like big prison systems, man. All right, so hey, when you come into that point in time, it's like, hey, look, you got restrictions. Again, going to that Chinese social credit system, man, where they're restricting people based off of the things that they've been able to do. All right, tempting to, hey, you can't get housing, you can't get work, you can't go to school. So basically, you kicked out to basically starve to death, man. Now, what are you going to do at this point in time? Are you going to fold to the government? You're going to bow down and worship, in our case, these Edomites over here? Or are you going to have faith in the Lord and trust in the Lord? The Lord is going to provide for you, man. This is going to be that great temptation that's going to come upon the whole earth. Hey, man, you got to take the chip, or you're going to just be an outcast out here, man. You're not going to be able to live up in these cities. All right, we'll put you into these outcast cities, but it ain't really no resources out there, man. Really, you go to some of these real backwood ass, country ass towns where you you have to drive 2 hours to get to your nearest major city, man. And look at the resources out there. I know they're like where my grandma lived out there, man. They got one red light in the whole city, man. All right. And, you got to drive damn near an hour to get to like the next big city, man. An hour in either direction to get to the next big city out there. So the resources out there are very limited, man. All right. If you go out there and you make like $40,000-$50,000, you pretty much at the top end of the earners out there, man. All right. You make $60,000 to $80,000. You like the richest nigga in the whole neighborhood out there, man. Don't let you live in shit. You $100,000, you can buy 100 acres. You be living like the Princess Zamunda out there for real. All right. But nevertheless, hey, this is what we have coming, down the pipeline. This is what they're preparing for, man. These smart cities or sustainable cities or 15-minute cities, whatever they want to call them. It's all the same thing, man. All right, all for this their control, man, so that no man may be able to buy or sell, save he they have the mark. They're going to have you under constant surveillance. All right, let me grab this other precept real quick. Job 5:12, it says, he disappointed the device of the crafty so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. All right. And what is their enterprise? They're trying to implement this here new world order, man. And that's what you see, they say, hey, in that great factory reset, that default setting that they trying to press, man. All right. And you will own nothing and be happy. All right. Redefining the food, no more meats and just cockroaches and everything else like that. This is what Esau's planning for you, man. All right. When they have mass housing and everything else like that, think about another system when they do all these things. And think about the quality of life that these people have. All right, we see it all the time. It's called prison. All right, when they had to house multiple people in prison, they all stacked up on top of one another. All right, to live in the how you call it, how the not way of life, but the how people are living, more or less to say, is compromised. It's very bad, man. You got all these people on top of each other, man. Sanitation is horribly bad, man. All right, they I ain't gonna say they defecating and washing their hands off in the same damn contraption. All right, now think about the food that they feeding these people, man. You think that they gotta sit there and feed all these people? You think they're gonna feed them with steak dinners and the most expensive food as if the people had to feed themselves? Nah, man, they're gonna be feeding them the most efficient thing that they can come up with, man. Look at the military, same way. When they gotta do things in a massive way. Hey man, these people are living in like what they call military not the barracks, living in military barracks and things like that, or if they out to sea on these ships and everything. Look at the type of meals they eat, man. MREs, powdered meals, and everything else like that, man. Tracking every damn body, seeing where they going, man. All right, so hey, this is these are systems that you can look at now and see what it would be like if you lived in these things. And like I said, they already have some of these things already in place here in America. Like I said, you go look at Brooklyn and how it is up there. Go visit a relative up in there. You go look at how those high-rise buildings are set up, man. A lot of the times you don't even have to leave the damn building to get to anything, man, whether it's school, work, the grocery store, or your damn house. You got apartments, or the library, the gym. You got everything all up in this one building that you would need, man. All right. It says, let me go over to this in Job 20. All right. I don't want this lesson to be that long, but Job 20 and 22. All right. It says, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits, and every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. And when he is about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the Most High shall cast the fear of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. And he shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. So when he's about to fill his belly is when those nukes are going to start raining down on him. All right. And what do we see him being prepared, on the battlefields of Ukraine and Russia? All right. Things are escalating over there, man. Things are starting to boil over. And what do we see the nations doing? Letting the weak say, I'm strong. All right. Preparing themselves, beating their plowshares and swords and the pruning hooks and the spears. All right. We seeing all this war, everything being called the mighty men up to war. All right. We seeing all these things being lifted up when it comes to the war front and everything else like that, man. All right. But, measuring time diligently, we can see how all this is adding up, man. Esau's pushing for, they're already building in certain places, these smart cities, sustainable cities, or 15-minute cities, whatever they're going to call them, and trying to hit that factory reset button on everything and get rid of this here currency that we have. You have a global economic collapse, introducing these CBDCs. All right. They're moving everything on along into this here one grid-like society where everything is tracked and traced, man, via the RFID chip, man, which is the MOTB, man. All right, so we see that this is what's coming into play, man. All right, I'm going to read it one more time. We're going to close out with that. Habakkuk 2 and 3 says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. All right, and this is what we see popping off right about now. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, the elect was edified with this here lesson. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shah, Bahashim Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders, the great millstone that taught us this truth and every will. And citation, much love for Yah, can push this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth, and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Until next time, I say, stay strong. Shalom.